T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Welcome. My name is Bettina Enclon. I'm the Associate Administrator of Communications here at NASA, and thank you for joining us for the post-launch briefing of Demo 1. Just as a reminder, for each of the reporters, please say your name and organization. We also have reporters calling in on the line, and also questions from social media. Please be respectful of the other reporters, and one reporter per question. With that, I'm going to turn it over to NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine.
Well, thank you, Bettina. It's an exciting evening. We've got a great group of folks here that can share some of their experiences. I'll introduce them, and then I'll say a few words and turn it over to Elon Musk to say a few words about tonight's, or I should say today's event, whatever time it may be. I'm not sure. To start, the CEO and lead designer of SpaceX, Elon Musk, is here. We have two astronauts, Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, who will be flying on the Demo 2 mission, which we're anxiously anticipating. We have Steve Stitch, the Deputy Manager of the Commercial Crew Program and the NASA Launch Manager for Demo 1, way down on my far right, and Kirk Shireman, the Manager of the International Space Station Program, to my immediate right. So tonight was a big night for the United States of America, a great night for NASA. What today really represents is a new era in spaceflight, an era where we are looking forward to being one customer as an agency and as a country. We're looking forward to being one customer of many customers in a robust commercial marketplace in low Earth orbit, so that we can drive down cost and increase access in ways that historically have not been possible. And we have our first provider of multiple providers today that had a successful launch. This is just the beginning. We're still in the first quarter. It's a 5-day mission, and we're looking forward to future successes on this mission and missions beyond this one. So, Elon, I'll turn it over to you for a few of your opening comments.
Sure. Well, thank you. Well, I'd just like to express a very strong note of appreciation for the SpaceX team that's worked. It's been 17 years to get to this point, from 2002 to now, and incredible amount of hard work and sacrifice from a lot of people that gotten to this point. Yeah, to be frank, I'm a little emotionally exhausted because that was super stressful, but it worked so far. We have to dock the station, we have to come back, but so far it has worked. Some of the riskiest items we've passed some of the riskiest items. But I'd like to also express a great appreciation for NASA. SpaceX would not be here without NASA. Without the incredible work that was done before SpaceX even started, and without the support after SpaceX did start. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to have so many people here so early in the morning. So we'll just open it up. If people have questions, I'll just call on folks as we go. The gentleman right here in the gray jacket.
Ivan Couron of Agence France Presse. Mr. Musk, do you have any customers for the capsule, private customers other than NASA?
We've not sought any private customers. Our focus has been on serving NASA's needs, but once Dragon is in regular operation, I think we will seek commercial customers, of which the NASA administrator and NASA in general has been very supportive of that idea. So, but we've been very focused on just making sure that the vehicle worked and maximizing safety and reliability. And we've not put any effort into commercial customers.
We'll go to the gentleman right behind him.
Hi, good morning. Tom Costello with NBC News, and congratulations to all. Elon, can you talk about now what does today prove to NASA and to the world about your capabilities at SpaceX and Dragon in specifically?
Well, we're only partway through the mission, but the system thus far has passed an exhaustive set of reviews. And then in the launch itself, the launch went as expected. So far everything is nominal. The Dragon 2 or Crew Dragon is a fundamental redesign. There's hardly a part in common with Dragon 1, which in retrospect I'll probably change actually, but there's a massive amount of new equipment on the vehicle, and everything appears to be working fine. So, yeah, we opened the nose cone. The forward Draco thrusters fired. The propellant system is working. It's much more complex than Dragon 1 because you have the integrated launch escape thrusters, the Super Draco launch escape thrusters on the side. In fact, I'm not sure if people know why is what's say better about Dragon than some other vehicles is that it does have integrated escape system. So previously, you'd have a tractor escape system, like a solid rocket motor mounted on the nose of the capsule as sort of a tractor. It would sort of pull the spacecraft away. That's how Soyuz works, for example. But in the case of Dragon, they're integrated, so you have an abort capability all the way to orbit. So and you do not have to worry about a separation event of the launch escape system. So this is, I think, quite a big safety improvement in principle. And then over the next, hopefully tomorrow, in about 24 hours, we'll be docking with the space station, so that it will be able to dock with the space station without using the arm. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Elon, Mark Strauss with CBS News. Congratulations on a picture-perfect launch. Maiden voyage for the Dragon over the next 5 days has to go through a number of important steps. You have a checklist that you have to go through. Are there any moments in particular that you will find especially challenging or worrisome?
Well, I think docking with the space station is going to be, we'll be docking for the first time. Previously, we would go close to the space station and the arm would reach out and grab, in case Dragon 1, it would grab Dragon 1 and attach it to the space station. In this case, the spacecraft will literally fly onto the space station and attach itself. So that's certainly going to be something new that we've never done before. And then re-entry, because the back shell is not symmetric in the way that Dragon 1 is. And it's not sort of a smooth conic like Dragon 1. You've got the launch escape thruster pods that could potentially cause a roll instability on re-entry. But I think it's unlikely. We've run simulations 1,000 times, but this is a possibility. So I think that the re-entry with the asymmetric back shell, and then the parachutes are new. Will the parachutes deploy correctly? Will the system guide Dragon 2 to the right location and splash down safely? I see hypersonic re-entry is probably my biggest concern. Oh, just because of the asymmetric back shell.
So the emotional exhaustion will go on.
Yeah. For a week.
We'll go right here. Yes.
get a chance to see the camera inside the capsule
Oh,
at liftoff in the first minute. What did you see? What data? How did the
oh, sure.
mannequin test dummy Ripley do?
Yeah, the video, we did get video from the ground station, so in fact, we'll hopefully be able to post some of that soon. And for sure, once we get close to the station, we'll have a good video link from inside the spacecraft. The bias was towards data, making sure we got the data down. So data's all looking really good. But I think if for members of the public, the real fun thing would be seeing the little celestial buddy, little tiny Earth, humanoid Earth thing floating around in zero G. I think the public will probably be most excited about that.
How many Gs did you get a sense of?
Well, it's in zero G now, but it would.
No, I
Oh.
mean the mannequin.
Oh, and it's fine. Yeah, it's like probably we got to about 4.5 Gs or something like that. It's no problem. Yeah.
The mannequin didn't complain once.
Yeah, no, it looked fine.
We
Yeah, it looked.
call from him either, so yeah.
You couldn't even tell. It's just it looked like a still. Yeah, looked fine.
We'll go right here in the front.
Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. I have a question regarding when you had the failure of landing and you had a block freeze of the Falcon 9, Block 5. You're unable to make changes according to NASA's requests. How did it, when you have non-mission critical things like grid fin hydraulic pumps that seize, what were you able to do as far as, you're in a freeze of the vehicle? How did that affect certification going on? Were you able to make tweaks to the hydraulic systems? Were you able to add a redundant pump already? Or did it not? Is that not considered a freeze, I guess? Or what's that like, I guess?
No, we've been actually able to work with NASA very well and make changes as it's like as I said earlier, I think you can always think of like this was like kind of co-designed by NASA and SpaceX, like in the sense that there was so much interaction and feedback that this is a joint effort really, and the NASA engineering team understands the vehicle really quite well, very well, and so when we want to make changes, provide those changes are sound, then we meet and confer and get it done. And we're able to fix the grid fin hydraulic pump stall pretty easily, actually without having a redundant pump. There just turned out to be like a bizarre sort of stall zone, and with a little bit of a tiny relief valve, we're able to fix it. It's easy.
I would say from a NASA perspective, we work hand in hand with SpaceX. They will propose changes to us. We have an engineering team that will look at every one of those changes. In this particular one, it was a pretty simple valve change to improve that grid fin performance. SpaceX proposed it. They bring it to us. We kind of go through it with our process, and engineers look at it, and then we make those changes to the vehicle. So it's a very methodical process. I would say we have great teamwork between NASA and SpaceX.
Yeah, we've done some pretty, I mean, obviously not for a mission like this, but we've done some pretty wild things. I was just talking with Bill Gerstenmaier earlier, and we're reflecting on that time when we had we had to trim the nozzle of the Merlin vacuum engine. So the C103 nozzle, which is like an OVM hafnium nozzle for the vacuum extension, had like a little tear in it. So we basically sent one of our best techs in there to trim it with a pair of scissors, and I was like, this is pretty crazy, but Bill and I was like, well, it should work, and it did. did work.
We'll go right here in the NASA shirt.
Mary Liz Bender with the Planetary Society. Elon, you've spent 17 years pushing past adversity, doubt, and you must feel incredible to finally be at this stage. I'm just curious what advice you have to all the dreamers out there that are dealing with the same kind of doubt that you did.
Oh, I always thought we would fail, so this is it's all upside. I thought maybe we had a 10% chance of reaching orbit starting out. So then people thought when we started SpaceX, they said, oh, you're going to fail. So I agree. I think we probably will fail. Yeah. It's worth trying anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
How's that for honesty, huh?
Yeah. Let's sit out, lose lose all the money from PayPal. I was like, well, you're probably right. And we almost did. We had first 3 launches of Falcon 1 didn't work. Then the 4th one, we scraped together some parts, and that one worked. And if that one hadn't worked, that would have been it for us. So, I don't know, I really believe in the future of space, and I think it's important that we become a spacefaring civilization and be out there among the stars. And I think that's one of the things that makes people excited about the future. And we want the things that are in science fiction novels and movies not to be science fiction forever. We want them to be real one day.
Does anyone have questions for the astronauts or specifics on commercial crew or the ISS?
You can.
Okay. Gentleman over there.
Hi, I'm Stephen Clark from Spaceflight Now. Had a question about the reentry, since Elon mentioned that's one of the riskier parts of this test flight. I understand the reentry is going to be a descending node over the U.S. Is that correct? And I remember during the shuttle days, overflight over a populated area was a concern and was always got some extra scrutiny. So I'm curious if that's something you've discussed, and talk about any risk that was assessed and how you dispose of that risk to decide for a descending node reentry. Thanks.
Kirk or Steve?
Yeah, I can take that one. So, yeah, you're correct. The entry is we're landing right off the coast of Florida, just a little bit north of here. There's an area that SpaceX is sort of designed as their landing area. In terms of entry risk, there's a process we go through to assess that risk. We take a look at the components on the spacecraft and look at the worst case kind of scenarios that could happen during entry. And there's a criteria that we have to meet. And so what we've done is we worked hand in hand with SpaceX to look at the spacecraft, how it's composed, how it flies. They run models and simulations of how it lands. We have an independent modeling system that we employed. And so we went through that whole process to ensure the safety of the public relative to landing. As Elon said, it is one of the areas that we're interested in for this mission as well for crew. If you look at the rest of the mission and the highest risk periods, it's obviously docking with station and then the landing phase. I think we'll learn a lot about the modeling of the vehicle, how the aerodynamics works for this particular vehicle and the GNC system during entry. So we're really excited about that part of the mission and getting that data for the crewed missions later on.
We'll go to Reuters here in the front.
Thanks. Joey Rowland from Reuters. This question's for Elon Musk and Kirk or Steve. What's the biggest takeaway you hope to learn from this mission? And based on what you've learned in the past and what you expect to learn in the coming weeks, how confident are you to say that we'll see humans launch from U.S. soil this year or in the summer?
Well, so far it's looking quite promising. Yeah, we're only partway into the mission, but so far it seems looking very good. The Dragon 2 has a very complex propellant system because of the fact that it's got an on-orbit maneuvering. It's got 16 on-orbit maneuvering thrusters, the little Draco thrusters, which are kind of small thrusters, and it's got the 8 Super Draco thrusters, which are very powerful thrusters, and the two are interwoven in a way that's quite tricky. And the main maneuvering thrusters on orbit actually thrust in the opposite direction that the propellant wants to flow. But so those worked. The forward thrusters under the nose cone worked, that's a big risk reduction. The nose cone opened, which is cool. The solar arrays work. So far everything looked good. So docking was mentioned, reentry. You can sort of see the illustration of there on the wall. What I mean by the back shell not being sort of a smooth conic like it is on Falcon on Dragon 1. It's got those escape thruster pods. So should be fine, but that would be a thing to make sure that it works on reentry, make sure the docking system works. Everything we know so far is looking positive, and unless something goes wrong, I would think that we'll be flying hopefully this year. Yeah, I mean this summer, hopefully.
Steve or Kirk, did you want to?
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I would just echo what Elon said. To me, it's really a bit of a dress rehearsal for the Demo 2 mission. We're going to fly all aspects of the mission, so I think we'll learn, a lot of subtle things about the spacecraft, how it does thermally, how the GNC system works. Getting into the rendezvous, it'll be really important to check out how the sensors work as we approach station. It's the first time we've flown to this particular integrated docking apparatus with this vehicle. There's a series of steps we'll take as we move in closer to station to make sure that the systems are performing well on the Dragon. Obviously, the crew on station will be monitoring the vehicle coming in. And then at the end of the flight, while we're docked also, we'll understand how it works at station. We're going to exchange data between Dragon and the space station. We exchange airflow between the two vehicles, and then at the end of the flight, we'll do the undock maneuver, and then separate the trunk is another big event, right? Before we deorbit, we'll separate the trunk and then come in for the deorbit and entry. So lots of different pieces, and each piece, my experience is we'll learn a little bit, and as Elon said, the flight's going great so far. And I would turn it over to Kirk to see.
Yeah. So the cool thing is you learn engineering things like you talked about, we learn operations things. So docking, coming close to the ISS, it's a test flight, but not really for us. We consider this one for score. It really is flying to the ISS, and we really want to protect the crew on board and the assets. So we'll learn that. We actually had to learn how to protect SpaceX's proprietary data when working with international partners, and so there's this whole dimensions of learning, and we've already done a tremendous amount of work, and I'm sure we're going to have some surprises along the way. That's what makes this so much fun.
We're going to take a question from our social media participants.
Okay, Powell Majak, perhaps, on Twitter is asking, how are the Dragon astronauts feeling about the spacecraft?
I guess I would say for us, we've been following the process for a few years at this point. We've made a lot of trips out to Hawthorne to kind of see this spacecraft come together and the spacecraft that we'll fly on later this year come together as well. And so seeing a success like this definitely gives us a lot of confidence in the future. And, like folks have described, really this is about predicting what the vehicle is going to do and then testing it and making sure that those two things match up as you kind of go through this mission. And that's what's going to give us that confidence going forward. And launch has been wonderful. Activation has been wonderful. We still have some significant events going forward that we'll want to make sure match up as well. I think the other thing, that maybe to allude to the previous question a little bit, is that I think we also have learned how to work together as a team, and that's really the reason that Doug and I came to Florida to participate from inside the firing room. We, of course, on launch day won't be able to do that, but it's great to understand how that team works. Being a member of it that's maybe not represented during the Demo 1 mission, we can take advantage of this experience and take that with us when we fly on our missions later this year. We'll be racing across the country, going to Hawthorne to see docking, and then also to see the splashdown from out there as well. So we're feeling pretty good about it, and it's really about each one of these milestones getting accomplished and giving us more confidence in the future.
Doug, did you want to?
Yeah, all I'll say is, this is the build-up approach that we learned very early as test pilots. And, we've worked ourselves to our first flight of the vehicle with DM1. And then, as Bob said, we'll work through those milestones. And then next up is the in-flight abort. And we'll have that to go, follow as they go through that exercise. And then that's kind of the graduation exercise for us to get on DM2 and go fly. So we'll work with the teams, and we'll be out in California, or we'll be here, and we're looking forward to supporting all of those events.
The aqua shirt right here.
Excuse me, Dave Mosher with Business Insider and Insider. I suppose this is for Elon. You said you're emotionally drained right now, having launched an uncrewed Crew Dragon, but you've got these two guys sitting right next to you. Do you think you're going to feel and handle that experience going into Demo 2? Like any thoughts on that? How you're going to get through that launch?
I suspect it will be extremely stressful. But I mean, doing the this test flight, I think goes a long way towards feeling good about the flight. Bob and Doug. So, and in fact, right after Dragon, separated and we fired the thrusters, I went over and asked them what they thought, and they're like, "How do you feel about flying on it?" Like, seems like you felt good about flying on it. I was like, okay, They're in the control room watching all the data, so I'm like.
Yeah, it's awesome when the guys told us what was going to happen, and that's what happened. That's how we like it to be. So.
Yeah. So, but we're gonna ask to make sure they're feeling good about it, and you guys were. So, we definitely want to launch until we've done everything we can possibly think of. That's for sure. And I think this plus the high altitude abort gives a lot of confidence about the actual mission with astronauts.
Aviation Week.
Thanks, Irene Klotz with Aviation Week. For Bob or Doug, did you see anything from your perspective in the firing room that in the countdown or in fueling, anything in the calls that kind of initially you're flagging as something you'd like to take another look at? And for Elon, thanks for coming out here. We've seen you here after the first reuse of a Falcon 9 and for Falcon Heavy. Big picture, how does this flight fit into your overall objectives and satisfactions personally and professionally? Thanks.
Well, it's the whole goal of SpaceX was crewed spaceflight and try and improve space exploration technology. That's actually the full name of the company, is Space Exploration Technologies. So the goal is to improve space exploration technology, and that's with the view towards helping make humanity a spacefaring civilization. It's been 17 years. We still haven't launched anyone yet, but hopefully we will later this year. So that would definitely be the culmination of a long dream for a lot of people, me and a lot of people at SpaceX for sure. Can't wait.
Bob and Doug?
Yeah, I think it was, we've probably seen half a dozen, maybe 3/4 of a dozen combination of static fires or launches, either from here or from Hawthorne. And, every time we participate, it's just amazing to see how the team is hitting its stride, getting these vehicles ready to go into space. And I think, every launch count or every static fire, there are technical issues that the team has to go back and solve real time. And I don't think this was any different. And I thought everybody handled their roles very well. And it seemed like everything went smoothly all the way up until launch, and so far so good. So from our standpoint, this is what you want to see. You want to see the team hitting its stride as we get ready to put people on these things.
And kind of as Doug described, we've seen several static fires or launches from various locations, from McGregor, from here, watching along in Hawthorne. And I think from our perspective is the thing that's been different with the Demo 1 mission is kind of the integrated operation. So seeing the Dragon team work with the Falcon team, usually it's a little bit more of a standalone payload, it seems, from the missions that we've seen. In this case, there can be things that you need to communicate between those two teams kind of real time. And to see the team kind of process that, kind of causes us to think a little bit about, hey, what's the crew perspective about that? What's Dragon going to tell the ground, and what's it going to tell us, and what does the Falcon team need to know about that? That's a piece of this that we got to see on Demo 1, and we'll get to make sure as we go forward that that's all captured in the simulations as we move forward. So that integration, we got to see it here, and we'll continue to see that as we get closer to flight.
Right here in the second row.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for Elon. I'm assuming you were in the firing room for launch, if that's so. And how much does it add to the satisfaction of seeing your rocket launch from the moon pads, the shuttle pads, and here you are in the firing room used by NASA for so many years and traditions? I mean, does that just add to the pleasure? Talk about that.
I would never have believed that this would ever happen. Yeah, I just think, humanity landing on the moon, man, that was maybe the greatest thing ever. Maybe the greatest thing ever. So I can't believe we're launching from that pad. Thank you for letting us do that.
Thank you for refurbishing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to believe. It's incredible history. Hope we go back to the moon soon.
That's the goal.
Yeah. We should have a base on the moon, like a permanently occupied human base on the moon, and send people to Mars, you know, and build a city on Mars. That's what we should do.
The gentleman in the back, put your hand up high there.
Mike from Fox 35. Elon, after you looked at Bob and Doug and said, how do you guys feel about going up in it? Did they say to you, how do you feel, Elon? And I wonder under what circumstances would you get in it and take a ride?
Yeah, I'd be happy to go on the vehicle. I think it's good design. Crazy amount of hard work from a lot of smart people at SpaceX, and with a lot of help from NASA. And I think it's a good vehicle. And you guys think it's a good vehicle, right?
Yeah, we.
Nice.
We're going to do one more question, gentlemen, in the aisle here.
Sunday before we can reach any conclusions, or a week when it lands.
Wait, one last question here.
Great. Ken Kramer for Space Up Close. Thanks for doing this. Jim Bridenstine, you mentioned you want NASA to be one of many customers. So my question, Elon, where do you see Dragon going beyond NASA? What would you like to do? Expand on that. Thanks.
Well, I think like the obvious thing would be, you know, if there are, you know, sort of private citizens that want to go to the space station, as has happened before, they've always gone on the Soyuz before. You know, there's been a number of people that have gone to the space station on the Soyuz, and I think it'd be pretty cool if people went to the space station on an American vehicle as well. You know, Soyuz is a good vehicle, but it'd be good if you know, there were also commercial trips on an American vehicle as well, and that's so I think that's one of the things that we'll do, and obviously NASA is very supportive of that, yeah. So and then you know, maybe there's something beyond the space station that we'll see. We're gonna focus on getting this right for sure. That's the priority. But then after that, maybe something beyond Earth orbit.
So I'll go ahead and close it out. You know, we just heard Elon say he'd be interested in having a permanent presence on the moon.
For sure, we should do it.
Well, that's the very first space policy directive given by the President of the United States to me as the NASA administrator, that we're going to go to the moon and we're going to go sustainably. So what that means is when we say sustainably, that means we're going to stay. And of course, the objective here is not just humans, but also landers and rovers and robots and humans, and utilizing our international partners and utilizing our commercial partners. And there's no doubt SpaceX has some really amazing ideas about what they could help us do at the moon and what they could help the coalition of international partners do as we develop this together. But the President's Space Policy Directive is clear. We're going to the moon. We're going sustainably. We're going with international partners. We're going with commercial partners. We're going to utilize the resources of the moon. That's a critically important part of the agenda. Why? We have to be able to live and work on another world for long periods of time. We have to be able to use those resources of another world, which is, of course, a great opportunity for us to prove those capabilities and technologies on the moon, because as it happens, you know, Mars and Earth are only aligned once every 26 months on the same side of the sun, which means when we go to Mars, which I know is high on Elon's agenda and it's high on NASA's agenda, when we go to Mars, we have to be there for long periods of time. So we have to figure out how how to do in situ resource utilization. And then ultimately we need to prove all of this out at the moon, which is a 3-day journey from Earth, which means we have a risk mitigation capability right there. We've seen what happens with Apollo 13. When something goes wrong, you can get home. If something goes wrong on the way to Mars, it becomes a lot more difficult. And so that's why the moon matters. It's why the moon is so important. It's the proving ground. And then at the end, we want to take all those technologies, all those capabilities. We want to retire the risk and go to Mars. There's great alignment between NASA and our commercial partners. And as we're seeing now with our international partners, just yesterday, I don't even know what day it is. It's like 2 days ago, I guess now, we had a great announcement from Canada. And they announced that they're going to be with us for the next 24 years in our sustainable return to the moon. And that's the kind of long-term, enduring commitment that we need. We need to grow the international partnership, and that means the partners that are currently there, we need them to help us in a bigger level. The International Space Station, amazing, amazing development that has proven the concept. We need to grow it. We need every piece of the architecture between the Earth and the moon to include our international partners. It's not just about Gateway. It's not just about the International Space Station, but it's about the entire exploration agenda in 3 different theaters that includes low Earth orbit, that includes the moon, and it includes Mars. And putting together a grand bargain, if you will, between our international partners and our commercial partners in a way that can be transformative for generations to come so that we can have that permanent presence of humans on another world, starting with the moon and eventually Mars. And
absolutely.
It's a bright future right now. And I will say this, and I say this every time I have the opportunity to talk to an audience, and with all the cameras here, it's more important than ever. The President's first budget request increased our budget at NASA by $1 billion, which was about a 5% increase. And then even before I got sworn in as the NASA administrator, a bipartisan Congress in both the House and the Senate plussed us up by $1.7 billion. So I thought I was coming in to advocate for a bigger budget. And in fact, by the time I got there, it was actually smaller than what Congress had already given us, which is a really good problem for NASA to have. And interestingly, today, as Elon and I were out on the launch pad, 39A, we had a conversation about why he got involved in this to begin with. And it was to inspire America to increase NASA's budget because of the return we get on those activities. Now, it is true, the idea that we can put humans on another world for long periods of time is great. But the benefits humanity has received from space exploration in general is immeasurable. The return on investment we get from that as a nation, and in fact as a world, the way we communicate, all of these cameras, DirecTV, Dish Network, internet broadband from space. I see a lot of people here that are going to put this on the internet. We talk about XM radio, for example, but the way we communicate, the way we navigate, the way we produce food. I was recently at the Ag Expo, and we're sensing the Earth in every part of the electromagnetic spectrum, and because of that, we can increase crop yields, we can reduce water usage. At the same time, we can preserve nitrates in the soil, feeding more of the world than ever before because of what NASA does. That's an amazing capability, and we didn't develop the satellites for that purpose. But because we have that data, we can share it, not only with the United States farmers, but around the world. We saved tens of millions of dollars in disaster relief that would have gone to Uganda, but because we were able to predict ahead of time a disaster situation developing, we could mitigate and save not only money for us in the form of aid, but also lives in Uganda. But the way we produce food, the way we understand weather, the way we understand climate, the way we do national security and disaster relief, all of these things were born. And I understand a lot of it's commercialized, and we love that. Helps save us money at NASA. But a lot of it's commercialized. A lot of it is done by the Department of Defense. But at the end of the day, it's born from this little agency that occupies less than 0.5% of the federal budget. And the return on that has been astonishing. So the idea that this event today was born from a concept of how do we encourage Americans to increase the NASA budget. Friends, we have that opportunity right now, and it is in fact happening with bipartisan support in Congress and support from the administration. So we're at a great time. Today's event was amazing to watch, and over the next 5 days, we're going to see a lot more milestones be achieved, and certainly as an agency and as a country, and really as a world with our international partners, we're going to be able to do more than ever before. So I just want to thank everybody with the TV cameras and the iPhones. Get this message to the world. It's an important message, and I'm so grateful for all of you being here and covering this very important achievement in American history. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you have more information, please visit nasa.gov. Thank you and have a great day.